Hi, my name's Stephen Tronichek. I'm with HorrorOrigins.com. HorrorOrigins is a website where you can find articles, reviews, and interviews. We also run our very own film festival and screenplay competition. Today, I'm talking with David L. Williams, the writer of Bearskull. Thank you for being here, David.
How's it going, Stephen? Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you as well. So, I like to start these interviews very simply with what was your introduction to horror? What introduced you?
Man, my introduction to horror. I'd say probably when I started working at Blockbuster is when I really started to care about horror. That's a long time ago. Way back in like 2009, I watched The Descent. I rented that, and also really underrated horror movie, The Ruins. I really loved those two flicks, and also that was I'd say mid 2000s was the that crazy rave of horror remakes. You
Mm-hmm.
had like Chainsaw sequels and stuff like that, and you also had like the what's considered horror porn. So I'd say early to mid 2000s, late 2000s, just the 2000s in general was like a big horror year of like really campy, questionable stuff that they probably wouldn't make today. But I would say that's when I really started to like really pay attention to horror and started to actually enjoy it.
Yeah, that whole era was really interesting because there's like an element of like camp to it and an element of it's kind of cheesy and there's lots of guts and violence and but it
Yeah,
is kind of fun. I like it. It's a good time.
I know it was quite the phase, quite the phase. It's just so unique to the 2000s too, with the
Right, right. I
introduction of high def and just like bigger TVs and yeah,
I always
yeah,
think about
very
like
very interesting.
the mood of the early 2000s and one of the things that always pops up is just those horror movies. Like, I don't know what
Yeah,
the first thing that pops into my mind is a House of Wax remake or
yeah,
so with
House of
Paris
Wax. That's
Hilton,
one.
which is just
Touristas.
so
Yeah,
weird and just,
the Hitcher, I think it's called, or Hitchhiker. I
Mhm.
can't remember. And then you had the Thousand Corpse, House of a Thousand
Yeah,
Corpse.
all
Yeah,
the
shit
Rob
like
Zombie
that.
stuff. Yeah,
Yeah, all the Rob Zombie stuff, ridiculous.
yeah. So,
Also, a
you're,
little. Oh, I wanted to give
oh,
a shout
no,
out
no,
to one
no.
movie, to a movie called Triangle, I think from '09, that a
Oh,
lot of people don't know about.
yeah.
Love
Hmm.
Triangle. That's also from 2000s. So please, yeah, go on.
Yeah. So your characters, they're fantastic and they tell stories in the script and,
Thank you.
having written scripts before, I always like, characters telling stories. It's a great device. It's a great thing. And I was wondering how kind of what leads you towards getting your characters to, express this type of verbal storytelling in your script.
Yeah. So the challenge with Bear Skull is when I decided I wanted it to be an ensemble kind of story, was how do I establish all the characters super quickly. I'll admit that like some super heavy development wasn't necessarily on my mind at the time. I kind of I wanted to be like kind of quick and cheap but effective,
Hmm.
like McDonald's. So one movie that heavily inspired it was Green Room.
Okay.
I love Green. It's like one of my favorite movies
Yep.
of the past
Saulnier is
20 years. Yeah, I love that
so
movie
good.
so
Yeah.
much. But it's like, what kind of character development do they have? They have one guy that they call jujitsu because he knows jujitsu. So now we know that that's going to play into the story later. We have the singer who is the only one with green hair. Okay, well now that's his character trait or whatever.
Hmm.
This other guy has a backstory. I forget what that character's backstory was. So I take character very seriously, but I'm also one of those. I also have like very low needs,
Hmm.
and when I from my movie going experiences, unfortunately, this can, for better or worse, this can imbue the writing, but I think in the case of Bear Skull, I was able to kind of flesh. I was able to use the horror to flesh things out later on. So I also had to come up with this is kind of a not necessarily a story, but kind of a fun tidbit. Uh, when I came up with the character names, that kind of inspired what kind of characters they would be because I wanted
Hmm.
names that would really differentiate them. Because there's five characters in one group. When I came up with things like McKenna, it's like, okay, well, he's might be kind of Irish, and he might be a fun dude. Zeta is like the handle of this guy that's was like this hacker that kind of
Hmm.
moves around the dark web. Then we have Phoebe, who's like a very kind of basic, probably the most normal out of the whole crew. And you have Marcia, who's also another redhead, that kind of thing. So then you have Gus, who's like, I wanted to think of a name of someone who sounds like they might be a leader, but also kind of vulnerable. So like, someone who's Gus is like, depending on his demeanor and his stature and pedigree and all that jazz. But like when I figured out the name, because I kind of figured out the names first, and then I applied the picture that was in my head due to the names to the characters in the story. And then when I was able to establish kind of the the foundation and the basics for them in that opening heist scene, and then the horror kind of plays out after, it's when I'm able to kind of really kind of dive more into the part. Okay, well, we have a bear in the house or in the cabin. Phoebe's diaper, her blood sugar's getting low. That's a character thing. Z-Dot is like the last person to know how to handle himself out in the woods by himself. That's a character thing. McKenna apparently left the guns under the car. It's a character thing. All that kind of stuff. So yeah, that's it was names first, and then I figured out the rest.
I mean, I think that's a lot of us. We're just flying through it. We'll see what happens. Yeah.
Yeah. Same thing with titles. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Bearskull's a good title, though. I think it is.
Thank you. I got to credit my best friend Jason for that one, because the original conceit was quite a bit different from what it ended up being, and there was a side character named Bearskull who just wore a bear skull on his head, and my friend was like, "That's not a side character. That's a title." It's like, oh, okay. I guess I'm gonna roll with that. So yeah, thanks. Shout out to Jason.
So, you mentioned Green Room as one of the influences leading into Bearskull, but it's a very distinct screenplay. But it definitely wears a lot of the, its influences on its sleeve. It wears a lot of it's got a lot of different horror films, like you were describing, definitely early 2000s horror stuff in there. And I was just wondering, what are specific influences that you also brought to the screenplay other than Green Room?
I would say The Ritual for sure. Those are the two comps I usually use, is Green Room and The Ritual. Another one, there's a couple of others, like Willow Creek, which is like a really super low budget kind of mockumentary-ish, maybe not mockumentary, but kind of a documentary style horror. Bigfoot plays a part in that one. Eden Lake, actually, from the 2000s, Fassbender of all people, influence. A little bit of also another influence was VHS, and specifically the first VHS.
That wasn't me, it was the couch.
That was not me, that was my chair.
It wasn't me, it was the couch.
But no, that was literally my chair.
Nithy.
Sir, it's really no big deal.
Well, it is to me. I would never poot in public.
I don't know if you heard that, but it was really funny.
Oh, no.
But the first VHS, where if you remember in the first VHS movie, it's like a group of these, it's like just a group of douchebags who break into this, I guess it was like an abandoned warehouse or something like that. And I always thought that scene was something about that opening sequence is just really cool to me, even though we're not rooting for these people at all. We have no idea why they're doing what they're doing. But I just thought it was just a really cool way to establish a group and their ideologies and how they kind of go about life. They're just breaking all these windows, and it's fun to kind of start your movie off with people just bashing windows into a house and stuff like that. But also just a tone of it's just like bandits in black kind of thing. Having a group of bandits. So Eden Lake for sure. I forget which VHS, Ritual without question. Yeah, Green Room, all those movies I would say for sure.
I would definitely say, have you seen Bone Tomahawk by Craig?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Yes, that's another one, actually.
Yeah.
Thank you. I knew I was forgetting one.
Bit of Bone Tomahawk flavor going on there, definitely.
Yeah. That's a good call. That's a good call. Yeah.
Kind of moving off of Craig S. Soller, there's a bit of a revolutionary streak. I'm moving away from Craig S. Soller. There's a bit of a revolutionary streak to Bearskull that maybe some of his work doesn't have. The thematically, What do you feel like you're reaching for in the script, more or less? Because there's some interesting, themes of animal rights activism and stuff going
Mhm.
on like that.
Definitely animal rights activism. Oh my God, the word escapes me. I just had the word. Um, Environmentalism. Thank you. Caring about the environment and also kind of yielding to nature. Nature rules all. Like, you kind of forget that. And if you bite nature, nature will just wipe you out of existence. So, for me, Nikandi kind of represented nature in a way. And that's why the Bearskull tribe like worshipped it. And they didn't mess around with nature. They respected it, and they were willing to do whatever to sacrifice to it. So, yeah, no, you hit it on nail on the head. Animal rights for sure. That's why the fox through line is in there, and environmentalism, and just one major theme is respecting nature. There's also a theme about mental health as well,
Hmm.
because of Gus's mental health conditions, how he feels kind of locked in to this triangle with McKenna and Marsha, and then everyone's locked in this cabin with this bear, and it's kind of like him being stuck with his emotions. So that's kind of what I was going for with that. And yeah, I would say that those are the themes for sure. I think you kind of nailed it with animal rights stuff. Me being a vegan, I was able to just kind of course, I had to mention it, but like I was able to kind of bring that into the story. One fun fact is that actually is not mentioned in the script.
Hmm.
Everyone in the group except for McKenna is a vegan. McKenna is not, but everyone else is. Especially Marsha, she's big into that stuff. So, yeah, those are the themes I was working with Bearskull.
Excellent, excellent. Um, so Bearskull is one of the most horribly, in a good way, violent screenplays I have ever read.
Oh my God, it's fantastic! I love that. Yes, yes.
So I wanted to ask about how you approach violence in your horror screenplays.
Dude, that's a great question. I never didn't even think about that. I tried, number one, first and foremost, I try to come up with things that are unique. I want things that are I want things I haven't I need deaths that I have not seen before.
Hmm.
And I would love for them to be specific to what the story is about, like unique to, so not just unique in how in the execution of like what's happening, but also
Hmm.
unique to the concept. So that's why they sacrifice Z-Dot in such a horrible way. And it's so funny too because it's like it's a pretty thin connection, but if you wanted to, you can stretch it to say that them using the gun on Z-Dot
Hmm.
is like nature kind of shooting back in a way. Um, so, so that's a fun death. And also I want things that aren't like oh man, all the words are escaping me right now. But basically things that are just like I want there to be a little bit of taste in there somewhere.
Yeah.
It's not just oh here's the liver just because. Like I want it to be like well thought out so that it's more effective. Yeah, so that's a great question because I've seen so many horror movies
Yeah.
with just guts everywhere and things just being really gonzo bonzo
Hmm.
stupid. And I really wanted there to be some kind of calculation of things were done. I wanted them to be the timing as well, super important.
Hmm.
I want them to be almost like at the height of the scene in a way, like just when you thought everything else was as bad as it gets. Well, now we're shoving a assault rifle down someone's throat, or in eyes being pulled
Right.
out, or you know. Um, so
Yeah,
yeah,
it's that
that's
I definitely got that kind of tasteful reaction of that "Ew," when like in a Del Toro movie whenever somebody gets stabbed in the armpit or something where it's like, why did they get stabbed in the armpit? What's going on?
because someone wanted you to ask that question specifically. That's what we wanted. Like cutting off Z-Dot's head, not as interesting. Shoving the AR-15 down his throat,
Right.
that's a little bit more interesting.
A little bit more interesting.
A
Yeah.
little bit more interesting. So yeah, but also then there's like Marsh's death, which is like which is unique to, which is very pertinent to what Gus is dealing with and
Hmm.
and his relationship with McKenna. So that's why that one might be the worst of all, because it affects 3 characters and it's drawn out throughout the story. There's definitely some thought behind the gore and the mayhem.
Great. So mayhem. You mentioned mayhem. This has some pretty great action sequences in it, actually,
Thank you.
on the page even. And I wanted to just ask your approach to action sequences in your screenplays. Like, just they're very punchy, to say the least.
I appreciate that. Thank you so much, man. Yeah, same thing with just like trying to make something feel unique. Just trying to be shocking. Having setups and payoffs. Just being kind of calculated with like almost like the same way in music, just like having the tempo kind of be. It's like sort of the same thing with the comedy, where you're just like it's about the tempo. It's like I remember way back in college, a friend of mine was kind of relaying some advice to me where like you want characters to go, oh no, and then they go, oh shit. So that's kind of what I try to bring that to the action, to have it be like kind of this escalating ridiculousness. And as far as like the punchiness and the uniqueness, man, you kind of have to figure out you figure out your sequencing, sort of like your broad sequencing. And then for me personally, there are some times where I don't know what's going to happen in a scene until I literally get there in the screenplay. For instance, the scene where they make the escape from the cabin, I genuinely was like, the page before that, I just sat on it for like 2 weeks because I didn't know how it will play out. And I didn't know, I had an idea of who I wanted to die, but I didn't know exactly, So yeah, I love writing action stuff. I love writing thrillers. Crime thrillers, like my favorite, my second favorite genre behind sci-fi. So I do have a lot of experience writing action kind of sequences, and I try to make them fun to read as well. So I want them to have a flow to them. I want them to be very fluid, easy to read, and outrageous.
Well, it sounds like your writing process is very intuitive, and I agree in a lot of ways where it's like, it's just so much more fun to sit down there and start writing something and see where the heck it goes.
Yeah, that's largely what I do. Contrary to popular wisdom, I just a lot of stuff comes to me, and when I'm ready, sometimes it can take weeks or months to really conceptualize something and fully flesh it out in my head. And I may technically I may not outline, but I might do it in my head. I may have the outline up here, and it's very fluid though. I don't try to stay super structured to something that's written on the page. I wouldn't necessarily say that I don't outline, but I just don't write it down. It's just
right.
I allow it to kind of have
roll
be dynamic.
Around in your head. Yeah,
exactly. Let it be dynamic and let it kind of change and shift and all that jazz. So and oftentimes I'm figuring things out about the characters as I'm writing, and so they in turn are changing things that I thought I knew would be happening later on in the script. And I feel like a lot of writers can actually attest to that kind of thing anyway, regardless of not if you write an outline or a treatment, that kind of thing. So yeah, I love my style, my process, and Bearskull was no exception. That whole sequence in the cabin, I think I brainstormed for a little bit, and then once I got going, once I started, like after the bear shows up inside the cabin, it flowed. I think I wrote that sequence and them trying to negotiate. I think I wrote that like a day and a half, 30-something pages, because it flowed. It was able to flow. So yeah, that's my process.
Excellent. So, lastly, I like to ask a very simple question. Don't even think about it. Top of your head, what's the best horror movie you could recommend to the audience if they would watch it? Just anything.
I want to say The Thing.
The Thing?
That's the first one that comes to my head.
Yep. That's pretty self-explanatory. I mean,
yeah, The Thing is the first one. I'm sure I have others if I put some thought to it, but it's like off the top of the head, the Thing. If I can squeeze one honorable mention in there, the movie that I really love. People may not agree with this one, The Mist. I love The Mist.
Yeah.
I love The Mist so much. So those two, but especially The Thing comes to mind. Which are
Both very fun, little surreal, very scary gore fests.
Oh my god! I mean, it doesn't get any worse than The Thing. When you're being invaded by an alien species.
Those practical effects too are just unbelievable. Like the guy's head coming off. Oh man,
just so good. Oh my god,
so stringy. It's just man,
it's just beautiful. It's just
yeah.
I'll never forget, man. I'll never forget The Thing. So again, another movie that I saw the first time at Blockbuster, rented it from Blockbuster, saw it. I was like, what the? So yeah, dude, one.
Oh well, hopefully whenever Bearskull gets made, we get some nice practical effects of people just doing just getting horrible.
Yes,
it's got like Annihilation or something like that, where you're just shivering. Oh yeah.
Yeah. Dude, that'd be baller, man. That'd be great.
Absolutely. Well, before we wrap up, where can people find you on Twitter, social media, anything like that?
Yeah, people can find me at Storyteller Dave on Twitter.
Okay.
So just literally the words. There's no underscore or anything. It's just one word, at Storyteller Dave. You can find me on Instagram at David Gem, DAVIDGEM. Shoot me a DM, and hopefully whoever's listening to this has seen the table read or is interested in reading the script or something. Yeah, it's been a crazy ride.
Excellent. All right. Well, just as a reminder, I've been Stephen Fronichek. You can find me on Twitter at STRONICEK. And I've been Stephen Fronichek for HorrOrigins.com. HorrOrigins is a website where you can find articles, reviews, and interviews. And we also run our very own film festival and screenplay competition. Thank you so much for being here again, David.
Thank you for having me.
All right. See you later.
Congratulations, sir. I heard it that time. There it is.
Yes, it was a couch. It wasn't me.